Welcome to More Than a Few Words, a marketing conversation for business owners. This is your host, Lorraine Ball. And it would be wonderful if every employee came into the office every day knowing everything they needed to know to do their job and to meet all the challenges that your business has today and in the future. But the reality is, in order to have that kind of workforce, you got to do some training. And that's what we're going to talk about today. My guest, Vicki Noethling, is a speaker, trainer, and coach. She's focused on public speaking and leadership, and her focus is on female entrepreneurs. She's a best-selling author and podcast host. She offers webinars, courses, and individual and group programs to help take her clients to the next level in their business. And she's going to talk about how you can do that with your employees. Vicki, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lorraine, so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm really looking forward to the conversation because as a business owner and as an educator, I know that training is important, but small businesses, companies with 10 or less employees often wrestle with how do they carve out the time? How do they develop a training plan? Where do they start?
That's so very true. And I'm glad that you asked that question because a lot of times when you have a small business, everybody's focused on their individual role or task. And the whole idea of leading by example sometimes is the only training you get. And not often is that leader, that owner, that manager available to give the training that's needed, or perhaps they aren't really seeing what is needed. And so having someone come in and do even a lunch and learn where it opens up the conversation and allows a third party outside to see, is there something that I could offer for them, a gap that needs filled that perhaps you don't have the time or the skill set to do, and I can fill that.
And it's really interesting that you say that because I think about in my own business, I'd been doing it a long time. I'd had a number of employees over the years that we had brought up to speed, and I felt pretty comfortable that I had the training piece down. But inviting a friend of mine in was almost like the way your friend's mother always was more influential than your own mom.
Yes. That is so true.
So when a business owner invites someone like you in, what kind of questions should they ask to figure out if it's the right person? What kind of things does the business owner need to do to get ready for those training sessions?
It's one of the things that really intrigues me is that I'll have someone ask, "Well, I want you to do a training. What can you talk about?" And the question should be, "I see this area where my team needs to grow." The one that I just recently did, they recognized that their team was really learning to gel together, and they needed to be able to understand how can they better communicate, making sure their tone is the right tone. And so we did exercises that were icebreakers at the start of each of my sessions so that I could really uncover some of the things that the manager or the owner hadn't really known how to articulate what they wanted to do. And that allowed me to see, okay, I know that there is some underlying conflict that people are kind of shoving down, so
Mhm.
let's do an exercise that can help them understand that. Or a great one is always, how do you better empathize with your customers and your coworkers?
Mhm.
And so we do a walk in your shoes exercise. That kind of peels away the onion a little bit. So then I know where next I need to develop either new content or use some of the things that I already have. But again, not often do they know specifically, well, I want you to come in and teach them how to do X, Y, or Z. It's often, I just need you to come and teach them to be better managers.
That is so true that very often something's wrong. Something is not working in your organization. You've got a talented team. They're all smart people, but for whatever reason, they're not coming together. And I think what you're saying is that bringing in that outside person who can listen to them, see how they interact, and then help them develop the skills they need to communicate can be a
Yeah.
great way to move your organization forward.
And you're accurate in saying that oftentimes that third party that brings in their different perspective may be saying the same thing that you were saying all along. But using your analogy of the mom, it's just having that outside person is really validating that, okay, well, more than one person is saying this, maybe they're right. And going from there. But
Absolutely.
the reason I teach both leadership and communication is that oftentimes people that are having struggles with leadership are because they have struggles with communication.
Absolutely. And particularly, I think with business owners, we did not, most of us did not take a course in how to run a business.
No.
We may have come to it with a particular skill, we had an idea, and suddenly it took off. And now we have employees and we have customers. And being able to step back, I think, and have somebody look at the whole picture and say, you know what, this is a place where you could use a little bit of support can be really helpful to move forward.
Right. And you also have to think about the fact that a lot of times if you have a small business, you had somebody that you started to bring up that say they were very good at sales or they were very good at doing spreadsheets, if you will. And so you said, "Oh, right, I need a manager now because I've got 3 or 4 people. I'll have this person that has seniority and this showed this skill set to become my new manager." But you failed to recognize that they had not the people skills or the training
Hmm.
to be a good heart-centered manager. And
Hmm.
so now the team that was working well is not doing well at all because
Hmm.
the person that put in that leadership role is not equipped with what they need to do that. And you either again don't have the skills or the time to teach them.
Hmm.
And so again, that's where it's helpful to have somebody come in and provide that extra support.
Absolutely. And I'm going to switch gears a little bit because we were talking
Hmm.
about something before we started recording that I think is so important. And that's this idea of we are in the age of remote working. This is the
Hmm.
reality. And we Zoom and we Slack and we interact in all sorts of ways, but nobody is teaching us how to do that well.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
sometimes it's a mess.
so true. One of my biggest frustrations whenever I started the Zoom world, if you will, were so many people would just not turn on their camera. And for remote teams to really thrive, you have to have that eye connection. You have to be able to really get to them, get to the heart of things, and build that know, like, and trust with your
Mhm.
clients, with your customers, with your coworkers. And so, what I try to do is check your setup. How can we make you more engaging? If we're in this environment that you and I are right now,
Mhm.
where you can't see my face, you can't see Lorraine's face. So, you don't know what faces we're making, how we're expressing ourselves to better connect, which ideally, that's what I'm going to help you with. But if you only are doing this audio call, how can I teach you to use your voice to convey those feelings and that excitement or that concern? in a way that is going to be well received by the other person on the other side.
Mhm.
So it's helpful to practice both audio only and how that message is received, and then the video piece, which for me, I really promote you using your cameras on as much as possible because allows you to just look into that camera and really appeal to the other side of the audience. It's a skill that we all need to perfect, and if you are seeing that your team is not good at it, then you need someone like me.
Awesome. Well, Vicki, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. And keep up the good work.
Thank you. If you have enjoyed the conversation and you want to know more about what Vicki does, she actually has graciously offered a free 30-minute chat to see how she and her team could help you grow as a confident leader. There'll be a link to that chat and assessment in the show notes. Vicki, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
If you've enjoyed today's conversation, if you'd like to find other resources for your business, be sure to check out our toolbox. Look for MTFW wherever you listen to podcasts. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Thanks for listening.